How well do you as a writer know your audience? Do you know who they are, what they like to read, what do they enjoy doing? These questions are important, but you want to go even deeper into figuring out who your audience members are and how to be able to write the best books for them. So let's talk about that today.
You have a story to tell, but you don't know where to start. Let me show you how to free your story. I teach you how to write and how to dig deep in your soul to release your story and make a difference in the world.
Welcome to the Julie Amante channel. If we're just meeting, I am Julie Amante. I'm a women's fiction author, and I'm here to give you some writing advice and help you to write your first book or maybe your next book. But today, let's talk about that audience and how you can meet their needs. So what is it that your audience wants? Meaning, what is your audience's goal? And I hate to break it to you, but your audience's goal is not to read your book. Your audience has a different goal. Your audience has a goal about how they would like to feel. Your audience has a goal on whether they want to be entertained, whether they feel like having an emotional read that might bring tears. Your audience might want to feel scared. So one big thing, one big goal, as you can tell, is that your audience wants to feel something. So they're reading because they want to experience a feeling. But that's not the only reason. Another reason that people read is to relax or to unwind, or maybe just to kind of escape their own life and their monotony of going to work and doing the same thing every day, and just escaping and experiencing something different, right? So just enjoying learning something different, visiting a new place, getting to know different characters. So that's another reason that people read. So if we think about it that way, right, you want to think about who is your reader. Why is your reader picking up your story specifically? What kind of experiences and what kind of emotions will your story deliver? And what kind of readers want to experience those feelings or want to experience that type of story? So it's important to, as you're writing, even before you're writing, is to envision who the reader is and what are the reader's goals when they sit down, when they go to the store, when they go online and they choose your story. What is it that made them choose that story? Why are they choosing your story, and why are they wanting to read it? So what is it that your story is delivering that's going to meet that reader's goal and needs? So taking the time to really understand why the reader is reading your book or reading stories in general is going to help you to deliver a richer and better experience for the reader. So it's important for us to spend a little time thinking about the reader and asking these questions about them. What do they want? What do they like? What do they need? And how is my story going to give them that? So one of the first things we want to ask ourselves is, where and when does our reader read? So some people like me, I read right before bed. So some people will have that habit, right? So they will come home from work, take care of whatever they need to take care of, and then they'll relax for a little while before bed. They might sit on their most comfortable chair. They might actually go to bed with your book and read for a little while. So that's one type of reading habit. So this reader is reading in bed, relaxing and enjoying the read, right? Where there might be another reader who reads on the way to work on a subway, or might be another reader that does not read at all and listens to audiobooks on their way to work. Or there might be another reader that doesn't have time during their normal life to read, but they love to read on vacation. So when they go on vacation once or twice a year, they love to take a book that they can enjoy and read. So what we're doing is we're trying to figure out, okay, so my reader reads during this time. How much time do they have to read when they're reading? So if my reader's reading at night before bed, do they read for 15 minutes? Do they read for an hour? How long does it take them before they actually fall asleep? And how much of my book are they going to read? So they're reading on little intervals. Or maybe they're reading, like, let's say another time that I used to read was when I would pick my kids up from school. Sometimes I'd take a book and I'd read for, 15 minutes until they, while I waited for them to come running out to my car. So that was a little short time. So are readers reading during these short little intervals? Or are they saying, no, I'm going to read during vacation work because I want to read the book from start to finish. I want to go from the front cover to the back cover, and I don't want to be interrupted. I want to spend 2-3 hours, whatever it takes, to finish my book. This is helpful for us to know, right? because it helps us to structure our book. So if my reader is reading at very, for 15, 20 minutes at a time, that means that I need to structure my chapters shorter because my reader wants to be able to read through a few chapters, right, during these 15, 20 minutes that they have to read. If my reader wants to really, just kind of go deep into my book, then that reader is going to spend a few hours with my book. Then maybe I can make my chapters a little longer, maybe a little more complex, a little deeper, maybe more description, right? It just depends on who this reader is. So one of the things I want to know really is when they're going to read, how they're going to read my book, how they're going to consume this book. So that helps me to structure my chapters and my novel as a whole. The next thing that you really want to know about your reader are the reader's expectations. So the goal is to relax, right? Or the goal is to feel a certain emotion, but the expectation is something different. They expect your book to deliver what you promise, right? So you need to understand what you're writing. You need to understand your genre. You need to understand what the tropes of that genre are, or what a typical story within that genre feels like, what it reads like, because your reader will know that. So they don't probably know, they're breaking this rule, whatever, but they will understand. They know the feel of the type of book that they like. If they're picking up a romance, they know what a romance feels like. They know at what point the hero and heroine are going to start to fall in love. They know when the first love scene is going to come. They kind of know that, right? They kind of expect that. And if you are not meeting their expectations, they're not going to like the book. So we need to understand what the reader's expectations are. And one of the best ways to do that is really to understand our own genre, to really know what we're writing, and to be able to write well within that genre. Obviously, each book is different and it's not going to be identical. And if you're writing maybe mainstream fiction that doesn't fall clearly into a genre, that's okay too, because those kind of readers are out there where they're saying, I don't really want to read a romance. I don't want to read a street mystery. I want to read maybe just general fiction, and I'm willing to go with you where you're going. But however, they still do have expectations of general fiction. It might not be what the storyline will be like, but they might have other expectations of, the type of description that's used, or the type of tone that it'll have. So they'll still have expectations of a certain type of book. So you want to understand that, because your reader will expect that, and you want to meet the reader's expectations there. Okay, the next thing that we want to talk about is reader demographics. Now, when we say, or when people tell you you should understand your reader, and you should know who your reader is, that's kind of the first thing people think of. It's like, oh, okay, I need to know how much money my reader makes, or I need to know their race or their age, or I need to know if they're male, female, and yeah, you need to know all that. That's important, right? But that's not the most important, right? Because people don't read just within their own demographics, right? So a 50-year-old woman will have no problem reading a 20-something-year-old heroine, or a young adult book, or whatever, right? That's not how they choose books. However, it does influence readers in some ways, right? So we want to know a little bit of the demographics of our readers. So like, where do they live? What do they like? So typically readers, of course, this is a huge generalization. Readers read everything, right? But they like to read certain types of books. So maybe some readers like reading international books, and they will like settings that happen all over the place. I remember in the 80s, a lot of the books that were written were sort of these jet-setting rich protagonists that would travel all around the world, and there'd be bank robberies in Paris, and there'd be all kinds of just international type stories, and they were a lot of fun and adventurous. And so I don't know, what does your reader like? Does your reader like reading those type of settings, or does your reader, is your reader a kind of a small town Midwestern mom that wants to read either opposite? Do they want to read something that happens in like big cities, or do they like reading about sort of like their own community and the things that they tend to experience? It just depends on your reader. And that's why you need to know, right? You need to know who you're targeting because you want to give them those experiences. You want to know their age, you want to know things like that. You want to know their financial status. You want to know a little bit, some of those demographics that, again, don't make a huge difference or a huge impact, but they might make some impact. So understanding that helps you to target your books. What does your reader like to do? What kind of hobbies does your reader have? Are they outdoorsy people? They like to go on bike rides and hikes, or do they work in a big city and for fun they go to the theater, or they like to, have their nails done. I mean, I don't know, right? And then it's kind of weird because it seems like stereotyping, and it sort of is, but it helps us, again, like I said, it's not the most important thing to know about your reader, but it makes a little impact. So you do want to contemplate that and say, who exactly is my reader? If I could pinpoint like that person and I could say I'm writing my story for that type of person, then it does help you. It helps you as you're writing, and it helps you to at least focus. And will it turn off readers that don't like that? Maybe. And maybe that's not a bad thing, right? So if somebody says, I really don't like to read small town, sweet romances, okay, that's fine, then they don't have to read that. But your reader, if that's what you're writing, will love it. And so you want to write for that reader. So a great thing to do is to envision that reader, like I was just saying, right? So you're thinking about who this real person is, and you're writing to that person. The reason that you want to envision this person is, you want to pretend that you're with that person, like you're following them, you're shadowing them as they're going into the store, they're looking online for a book. And you're watching how they choose a book, what makes them choose your book, your story, and what is it? What are they liking? At what point in your story are they crying? Are they laughing? At what point are they getting frustrated because they don't like something? So if you can sort of shadow this reader and see what the responses are to your story, that will help you as you are maybe going through and editing and rewriting and saying, no, I don't think my reader's going to like this, or I don't think my reader's going to understand this, or I think my reader will get annoyed with me because I said this, right? So you want to, think about that and go through it and try to sort of listen in to what your reader is thinking and responding to your story, because it helps you to edit, it helps you to revise it, it helps you to create that story, again, that reader will really love. All right, so what if you are sitting there going, but I'm not published yet, I don't really know who my reader is, or I am published, but I'm still kind of really foggy about who my reader is. I sold my first book or second book, and I really don't know who's reading them, right? So you could have that experience. I felt like that at the beginning, like, oh, I kind of know like who my reader is, but I wasn't really like positive. I just hoped everybody would like my book. Which rarely happens, but you kind of hope that when you're a brand new author. But if you don't know, it's actually a great place to be, because instead of trying to envision who is reading your book, you have the opportunity to create the person, right? Create that audience. So you can write the book for the audience that you want to read your book, right? You want to have that person in mind. It's like, okay, I want this type of person to be my reader. I want these, I want women, I want men, I want children, whatever, right, to be my audience. And I want my audience to like this. A lot of times, right, our audience is very similar to us. So our audience likes us because they feel they are like us. So if we like something, and it's also very authentic, I guess, if you're writing something that you would love and your audience is connecting to that, right? They're connecting to that authenticity that they feel in you because they are similar to you. So a lot of times you could say, well, I'm not really quite sure who my audience is, but I'm going to write to an audience that is similar to me. So I love, I love snowboarding and living in the snow, and I love that kind of, environment. And so I'm writing to people that also love that. Or I love, I'm Latina, right? So I've written my whole entire life Latino characters. And so in my mind, my audience is either Latino or identifies as Latino or is married to Latinos and likes the culture at least, right? So that is my audience. Does it mean that somebody who's not Latino can't read my books? Of course not, because the stories hopefully are universal and everybody can connect to them. But if I want to envision like who is this person who's reading my book, I have to narrow it down a little bit so that I can at least focus on that person. And as other people pick up the book, again, they can enjoy it as well. But I know that at least the target audience, my audience that I want to write for, is going to like it, or at least I hope is going to like it. So if you don't know, then just create that audience. Write for the audience that you want, or write for an audience that is similar to you. So it does take a little bit of time and thought, and just guessing. Because we don't know, but it's worth the time that it takes to try to envision who our audience is, to try to write to that audience. Because again, it's helpful if you're just writing thinking that I'm just going to write and I have no idea who I'm writing for and who's going to like my stories, and it's just. It's a lot harder because you're just sort of writing in a void and you're not quite sure how to target. And it becomes important later on too. So if you do sell your story, then you need to market it. And who do you market it to, right? If you wrote something that's sort of broad and you have no idea who's going to like it, then it makes it a little harder to reach to an audience and say, here, I wrote this book, are you interested? Because you don't know who to go find, right? So it is helpful. I hope that this video is helpful, and I hope that I'm reaching an audience of people that are looking to write a story, or who have already written a story but are hoping to continue to improve, which could be many people, right? I'm always doing that. I've been writing for a million years, and I still listen to other writers, and I still watch videos on writing, because I'm always learning too, right? I can always learn something new. So anyhow, I hope this helps. And if it does, please hit the like and the share button, and come back next Friday and subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed. And thank you for being here, and I'll see you again next week.